Imagine a machine no bigger than a small car, built with the technology of the 1970s. No internet, no smartphones, no advanced AI, just wires, transmitters, tape recorders, and an unwavering dream. This machine is Voyager, and more than 4 decades after its launch, it is still out there, sailing through the darkness, venturing where no human-made object has ever gone before. The year was 1977. The world was still buzzing from the moon landings, and humanity was beginning to ask the next question. What lies beyond? NASA, in one of its most ambitious efforts, launched 2 spacecraft, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, toward the outer planets. Their original mission was bold but clear: take advantage of a once-in-176 years planetary alignment, a cosmic window that would allow gravity assists from one giant world to the next. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, like stepping stones across a vast river, these worlds would sling the Voyagers further and faster than any rocket ever could. And they succeeded. Voyager 1 gave us the first close-up images of Jupiter's Great Red Spot, revealing it as a storm so large it could swallow 3 Earths. It showed us volcanic eruptions on Io, eruptions so powerful they flung material hundreds of kilometers into space. Voyager 2 journeyed on, to Uranus with its tilted axis and icy moons, then to Neptune, with winds blowing faster than the speed of sound. Each encounter rewrote textbooks, each flyby reshaped how we thought about our own solar system. But here's the part of the story that few could have predicted. The Voyagers kept going, past the orbits of Pluto, past the Kuiper Belt, into the dark and uncharted frontier. They became not just explorers of planets, but messengers to the stars. And out there, at the boundary between our solar system and interstellar space, they found something extraordinary. A barrier, a frontier of fire. Now, when scientists describe the wall of fire, they don't mean literal flames licking the edge of space. Out there, no oxygen exists to feed fire as we know it. Instead, this wall is a metaphor for a turbulent region of charged particles, magnetic fields, and cosmic radiation. The sun, our star, is constantly shedding a stream of charged particles called the solar wind. This wind carves out a bubble around the solar system, known as the Heliosphere. Inside this bubble, we are shielded, our fragile Earth protected from much of the harsh radiation that permeates interstellar space. But even the sun's power has its limits. At a certain distance, the solar wind slows, piles up, and collides with the incoming winds of the galaxy itself. It is here that Voyager discovered the boundary, a region where the density of particles surged, where heat built up, where energy clashed like 2 oceans meeting in an endless storm. It is this turbulent, seething boundary that scientists poetically call the Wall of Fire. Think of it like this. Imagine standing at the shore where a river meets the sea. Fresh water pushes outward, salt water presses inward. At that boundary, waves crash, currents swirl, and chaos reigns. That's what Voyager crossed. Only this shore is billions of miles away, and the waters are invisible streams of atomic particles traveling near the speed of light. Voyager's instruments, designed decades earlier, were never meant to handle this. And yet, they measured it. They felt the heat not in degrees like on a thermometer, but in the charged whispers of plasma detectors and magnetic field sensors. The spacecraft recorded a sudden spike in temperature, a glow in the invisible spectrum, a barrier where the sun's influence gives way to the galaxy beyond. For the first time, we realized the solar system is not a neat boundary marked by Pluto's orbit, nor by the Kuiper Belt, nor even the Oort cloud. Instead, it is wrapped in a cosmic cocoon, an invisible shield inflated by the sun's breath. And at the edge of that cocoon lies the fiery frontier that Voyager revealed. Pause for a moment and imagine this. One tiny spacecraft, powered by a nuclear battery the size of a drum, whispering across space with less energy than a refrigerator light bulb, sending back data from over 14 billion miles away. The signal takes more than 20 hours to reach us, traveling at the speed of light. And yet, from that fragile radio whisper, we learned something profound about our place in the cosmos. The Wall of Fire is not just a scientific discovery, it is a symbol. It is the moment when humanity, through Voyager, pressed its hand against the invisible membrane separating us from the galaxy and felt the heat of the great beyond. The vastness of space is not empty. It is filled with invisible rivers of particles, magnetic threads, and storms of cosmic radiation. The Voyager probes, against all odds, became our first vessels to dip their bows into this unseen ocean. What they found was not silence, but turbulence. A storm-swept shoreline where our star's influence collides with the galaxy itself. To understand what Voyager discovered, we must first appreciate the architecture of the heliosphere. Picture the sun at the center, blowing an endless wind of plasma, electrons and protons streaming outward at nearly 1,000,000 miles per hour. That wind creates a bubble, a protective shell around the solar system. Inside, planets orbit in relative safety, shielded from most of the galaxy's high-energy particles. But bubbles do not last forever. They expand until pressure pushes back. The interstellar medium, the thin soup of gas, dust, and radiation between the stars, pushes against the sun's bubble, and the boundary becomes a place of drama. Scientists had imagined this region for decades, but imagination could only go so far. Voyager turned speculation into observation. The spacecraft first detected the termination shock, the point where the solar wind abruptly slows as it rams into the interstellar medium. There, the sun's outflow loses much of its speed, compressed like traffic on a cosmic highway. Beyond lies the heliosheath, a chaotic zone of swirling fields and roiling plasma, hotter and denser than expected. It was here, deep within the heliosheath, that Voyager's sensors recorded something astonishing. A dramatic spike in energetic particles, as if the spacecraft had passed into a glowing curtain. The data revealed that the wall of fire was real, an enormous sheath where charged particles piled up, heated, and lit the boundary with invisible energy. This was not a quiet frontier. It was alive with shocks, magnetic turbulence, and radiation levels far higher than inside the solar system. Consider what this means. Every cosmic ray that bombards Earth from beyond the solar system must first pierce this frontier. It is our shield, our unseen guardian, filtering and reshaping the galaxy's radiation before it ever reaches the pale blue we call home. Voyager's passage transformed the poetic metaphor of a wall into a tangible reality. The surprise was not just that the wall existed, but that it was hotter and thicker than models had predicted. Some scientists likened it to a blast furnace, powered by the clash of solar and galactic winds. Others saw it as evidence of a more complex interplay between magnetic fields, bending and twisting like ropes under tension. Voyager didn't just confirm theories. It shattered them, forcing us to redraw the edge of our cosmic map. And all the while, the spacecraft continued outward, deeper into the heliosheath, toward the heliopause, the true boundary where the sun's influence ends and the galaxy begins. Each bit of data carried the weight of history. Humanity had never before reached this threshold. Think of it, all of civilization, all of our recorded history, from the pyramids to the internet, had unfolded inside a bubble we didn't even know existed until recently. Voyager showed us that we live inside the breath of our star, and that beyond lies a storm of foreign winds. The wall of fire is not just physics, it is poetry written in plasma. It is the universe reminding us that frontiers are rarely gentle. They flare, they resist, they blaze with energy. Voyager was our scout into this storm, and against all odds, it survived to tell the tale. Crossing into the heliosheath was only the prelude. Beyond it lay the ultimate frontier, the heliopause, the invisible membrane where the sun's wind finally surrenders to the galaxy. For decades, astronomers had debated what this crossing would look like. Would it be abrupt, like stepping through a doorway, or gradual, like a fog that slowly thickens until you realize you are somewhere new? Voyager answered the question with data. As it pushed outward, its instruments, built with the technology of slide rules and analog circuits, continued to register fluctuations in particles and magnetic fields. Then, in 2012, Voyager 1 made history. It recorded a sudden, dramatic drop in solar wind particles, coupled with a sharp increase in galactic cosmic rays. That moment marked the crossing of the heliopause. Humanity had left the sun's cocoon for the first time. The irony is breathtaking. A machine launched when Jimmy Carter was president, when disco still filled nightclubs, was the first to break into interstellar space. Not a futuristic starship with warp drives, but a probe built with less computing power than a pocket calculator. And yet, its achievement outshines the wildest dreams of science fiction. The heliopause itself is a place of paradox. It is a void, yet it is charged with energy. Voyager's detectors revealed that cosmic rays outside the heliosphere are far more intense than within. These high-energy particles, remnants of supernovae and distant stellar furnaces, constantly rain down on our galaxy. Inside the heliosphere, we are sheltered from their full force. Beyond it, Voyager felt the raw cosmic weather. It was like stepping out of a greenhouse into the unfiltered glare of the cosmos. What does this mean for Earth? It means that our star is more than just a source of light and warmth. It is also a shield. The solar wind, though invisible, is a protective veil that deflects much of the galaxy's radiation. Without it, life on our planet might have faced a harsher, perhaps even impossible struggle. Voyager's crossing reminded us of how delicate our existence truly is, dependent not only on Earth's atmosphere and magnetic field, but on the extended breath of the sun itself. From a scientific perspective, the data from Voyager is priceless. It provides the only direct measurements of interstellar space we have ever collected. Instruments that were supposed to function for just 5 years continued to return information decades later, painting a portrait of a boundary far stranger than models suggested. For instance, Voyager revealed that the magnetic field orientation just outside the heliopause was not dramatically different from inside. The expected sharp twist was absent, raising new questions about the way our star's influence blends with the galaxy's magnetic web. But beyond the data lies something more profound: the philosophy of the crossing. For the first time, human technology had left the cradle of our solar system. Think about that. Every stone tool, every ship that sailed Earth's oceans, every rocket that reached orbit, all of it happened within the domain of our sun. Voyager alone stepped beyond. It became not just a spacecraft, but an ambassador of our species, drifting into the infinite night. There's poetry in the timing. Just as Voyager crossed into interstellar space, humanity on Earth was entering the 21st century, a time of both turbulence and connection. While we argued over borders, Voyager slipped across the only border that truly matters, the one between star and galaxy. It didn't need permission. It didn't raise a flag. It simply went, carrying with it the humblest yet most audacious artifact: the Golden Record. The Golden Record itself is worth pausing over. Affixed to Voyager's side, it is a time capsule of humanity. Music, greetings in dozens of languages, images of life on Earth, from a mother nursing a child to the sound of whales. The irony is sharp. While Voyager was enduring the violence of the heliopause, it was also carrying a message of peace. At the edge of fire, it bore a record of love, curiosity, and the fragile beauty of life on our pale blue. For scientists, the wall of fire and the heliopause are puzzles to be solved. For the rest of us, they are symbols. They remind us that boundaries are not the end. They are invitations. Voyager's crossing into interstellar space is not the end of its mission, but the beginning of a new era of wonder. It tells us that we can build, we can explore, and we can reach farther than anyone imagined in 1977. And now, Voyager drifts in silence. Its cameras have long been shut off to save power. Its instruments are slowly failing, one by one. The nuclear battery that powers it grows weaker each year. Someday, perhaps within this decade, it will fall silent forever. But its journey will not end. Long after Earth itself is gone, Voyager will still be out there, carrying whispers of our existence into the galaxy. Think about that. A fragile machine born of human hands will outlive mountains, rivers, nations, and civilizations. It will wander the stars long after we are dust, a solitary herald of a species that once dreamed of the infinite. And it all began with a wall of fire. Voyager's crossing into interstellar space was not the closing of a chapter, but the opening of one humanity had never before written. When the spacecraft pierced the heliopause, it became more than just a traveler. It became a scientific outpost, our only station beyond the sun's reach, sending back dispatches from a realm no one had ever touched. The data it collected reshaped how we think about the solar system's boundary. Scientists once imagined the edge as clean and sharp, like a glass dome separating us from the galaxy. Voyager revealed something different, a chaotic frontier that breathes, shifts, and flickers with solar cycles. The wall of fire is not static. It swells when the sun grows active, shrinks when the sun quiets, and ripples under the pressure of galactic winds. The boundary is alive. This discovery raised new mysteries. One was the so-called magnetic highway. Before fully crossing into interstellar space, Voyager recorded a region where particles from the galaxy and the solar system mingled, guided by magnetic fields that connected both realms. It was as though the spacecraft had found a secret road, paved not in stone but in magnetism, leading outward. The universe, it turned out, is less about walls and more about threads, fields that weave stars together in ways we are only beginning to understand. Another puzzle was the temperature of the plasma outside the heliosphere. Models had predicted it would be hotter, yet Voyager found it cooler than expected. This discrepancy remains a challenge. Did the models underestimate the cooling influence of cosmic expansion? Or is there some hidden process that bleeds energy from interstellar plasma? Each answer could lead us to a deeper understanding of how galaxies breathe. Voyager also forced us to reconsider cosmic rays. Inside the solar system, their numbers were moderated by the heliosphere. Outside, they surged, hitting Voyager's detectors with intensity. These cosmic rays are more than background noise. They are the fingerprints of exploding stars, the ashes of ancient supernovae scattered across the galaxy. By measuring them directly, Voyager allowed scientists to trace the life cycles of stars in ways no Earthbound observatory ever could. And yet, for all its revelations, Voyager left us humbled. It told us more about what we don't know than about what we do. The heliopause is not uniform. Its thickness varies. The strength pulses. Its shape may be more comet-like, with a tail stretching downstream of the sun's motion through the galaxy. Some models even suggest the heliosphere is not a bubble at all, but a croissant-shaped structure, pinched by magnetic forces. Voyager's single line of trajectory is like a needle prick on a balloon, valuable, but not enough to map the whole. That is why scientists dream of new missions, probes designed to follow Voyager, but with modern instruments, faster propulsion, and broader perspectives. Voyager showed us the door. The next generation must walk through it. But here's the most remarkable part. While Voyager was busy teaching us astrophysics, it was also teaching us philosophy. It reminded us that our solar system is not isolated. We are part of a larger galactic ecosystem, woven into the magnetic fabric of the Milky Way. The wall of fire is not a boundary that imprisons us. It is a veil that connects us to the galaxy beyond. Consider this. When Voyager crossed into interstellar space, it didn't leave home. It expanded the definition of home. Suddenly, the galaxy itself became part of our address. We are not just citizens of Earth or of the solar system. We are citizens of the Milky Way. This shift in perspective echoes the lessons of earlier ages. When explorers first crossed oceans, they discovered that Earth was larger, more connected, and more diverse than they imagined. Voyager is the new Columbus, not of continents, but of stars. And like those early voyages, it carries both wonder and humility. Wonder because the universe is more magnificent than we dared believe. Humility because we realize how small we are in its vastness. Voyager's endurance itself is a lesson. Decade after decade, its fragile systems continue to operate. Tiny course corrections, careful power management, and the ingenuity of engineers keep it alive. This persistence is a mirror of humanity's own resilience. Even when the odds seem impossible, we find a way to keep going, forward, outward, into the unknown. Someday, the spacecraft will go silent. Its instruments will shut down, one after another, until there is only the hushed whisper of a drifting metal husk. Yet even then, its story will not end. Long after its last transmission, Voyager will continue sailing between the stars. In 50,000 years, it will pass near another star system. In millions of years, it may drift into the galactic halo. For longer than Earth's continents will exist, Voyager will endure. It is not only our explorer, it is our messenger to eternity. And perhaps that is the most profound meaning of the Wall of Fire. It is not merely plasma and particles. It is the threshold of immortality. Voyager crossed it, carrying with it the essence of humanity. Our music, our images, our voices. When future civilizations, or perhaps distant intelligences, encounter it, they will find not just a machine, but a story. A story that began on a small blue world, warmed by an ordinary star, told by a species that dared to dream beyond its cradle. When Voyager 1 confirmed its crossing of the heliopause, scientists expected a clean separation. Inside was solar, outside was galactic. Yet, reality once again proved more complex. The spacecraft's instruments picked up waves in the plasma beyond the heliopause, oscillations triggered by solar storms erupting from millions of miles behind it. This meant the sun's voice still carried faintly into interstellar space, like a distant echo fading across the horizon. That echo revealed something astonishing. The boundary we call the heliopause is not impenetrable. Energy leaks through. Disturbances from the sun ripple outward and excite the plasma even after crossing into the galaxy. It's as though our star whispers into the void, announcing its presence far beyond its official territory. Voyager, listening carefully, became the first ear pressed against that whisper. These discoveries transformed how scientists think of the solar system's edge. It is less a border and more a membrane, a semi-permeable skin where cosmic rays, magnetic fields, and plasma waves mingle. Some even compare it to a cell wall in biology, selectively allowing energy and matter to cross. By measuring how radiation filters through, Voyager laid the foundation for a new field, heliophysics beyond the heliosphere. And yet, for every answer, new paradoxes arose. One striking puzzle was the pressure balance. The interstellar medium appeared denser than predicted. The sun's bubble was being squeezed harder than expected, almost as though the galaxy itself were pressing down more forcefully. This raised questions about whether hidden magnetic structures, invisible to our telescopes, are shaping our solar system's cocoon. Voyager's data suggest that the galaxy is not a passive sea. It is an active, structured environment, sculpting our star's protective bubble in ways we still struggle to understand. Another enigma concerned cosmic ray anisotropy. Scientists assumed galactic cosmic rays outside the heliosphere would bombard Voyager uniformly from all directions. Instead, Voyager detected uneven patterns. Certain directions showed stronger fluxes than others. This implied that the galaxy's magnetic field channels these high-energy particles like a river guiding raindrops. Voyager, unwittingly, became our first probe of this cosmic architecture. The consequences ripple far beyond astrophysics. These insights help us prepare for future exploration. Human missions to Mars, to icy moons, or one day to interstellar space must contend with radiation. The data from Voyager allow engineers to model shielding, to anticipate the invisible storms that could endanger astronauts far from Earth. Without Voyager's trailblazing path, we would be flying blind into that peril. At the same time, Voyager reshaped our cosmic identity. Before its crossing, we thought of the solar system as a self-contained realm, a safe harbor in an infinite sea. Now we know it is more like a fragile bubble adrift in galactic currents. The protective heliosphere is not permanent. It swells and contracts with the sun's cycles, waxing and waning like the breath of a living organism. In this sense, Earth's safety is temporary, maintained by the heartbeat of a star. To realize this is to gain humility. Our existence is not guaranteed by permanence, but by fragile balances in an ever-shifting universe. Voyager also reminded us of the loneliness of space. After the crossing, its instruments recorded a steady hum, a faint, persistent plasma oscillation in interstellar space. This monotone song is not dramatic, not thunderous, but haunting. It is the music of the galaxy's background, a reminder that space is never truly silent. Listening to that faint hum, one is struck by the contrast. A lone machine, drifting endlessly, recording the heartbeat of the cosmos, sending its song across billions of miles to a small planet that built it. The mission's legacy extends to dreams of the future. Concepts like the Interstellar probe, a spacecraft 10 times faster than Voyager, equipped with modern detectors, are already being studied. Such missions could map the heliosphere in 3 dimensions, explore the hydrogen wall at the boundary, and even study the undisturbed interstellar medium beyond the sun's reach. Voyager is the scout. The next generation will be the cartographers. But beyond the science lies a more intimate truth. Voyager teaches us about ourselves. The very idea of a protective bubble resonates on a human level. We, too, live within boundaries, national, cultural, personal. We imagine them as solid lines, but in reality they are porous, shifting, permeable. Just as cosmic rays and solar particles slip through the heliopause, ideas, hopes, and fears slip through the walls we build. Voyager's crossing is a metaphor. To grow, we must step outside the bubbles that shelter us, no matter how frightening the turbulence beyond. For humanity, the wall of fire was not a warning, but an invitation. An invitation to expand our imagination, to see ourselves not as citizens of a solar system, but as participants in a galactic story. Voyager's achievement did not diminish us. It enlarged us. It told us that we belong not just to a star, but to a galaxy. And perhaps that is the deepest lesson. While Voyager measures plasma waves and radiation levels, what it truly sends back is perspective. From billions of miles away, it whispers that boundaries are illusions, that frontiers are bridges, and that the universe is not something we observe. It is something we are part of. Voyager is more than a spacecraft. It is an archive. Every bit of data it has sent back across billions of miles is a record carved into the memory of humanity. But beyond the charts and numbers, beyond the radiation counts and plasma waves, it carries something stranger, something more daring: the golden record. This record, etched in copper and plated in gold, is humanity's calling card to eternity, to a future civilization, or perhaps to no one at all. It is a time capsule sealed at the very moment when our species first touched the threshold of the galaxy. Within it lie greetings in dozens of languages, from Akkadian to English. It holds the sound of rain, the cries of birds, the laughter of children. It holds music from Bach to Chuck Berry, a bridge between centuries and cultures. And it carries images, trees, rivers, DNA, architecture, the anatomy of the human body. Voyager is not only a scientific mission. It is an act of storytelling on a cosmic scale. Imagine the paradox. While its detectors were registering the fury of the heliopause, its record was quietly carrying whispers of our world. Plasma storms on one side, Beethoven on the other, a wall of fire and a message of peace. It is as if humanity, aware of its fragility, wanted to leave behind a trace of beauty as it stepped into the unknown. This juxtaposition gives Voyager a dual legacy. On one hand, it is our scout, measuring the solar wind's dying breath and the first stirrings of the galactic medium. On the other, it is a messenger entrusted with our cultural soul. Few machines embody such a profound union of science and art. From the scientific side, the data continue to surprise. Cosmic rays outside the heliosphere, for example, tell us about the life cycles of stars. Each high-energy particle is a relic of a supernova explosion that once shook the galaxy. By studying their distribution and energy levels, Voyager helps scientists reconstruct when and where such stellar deaths occurred. In a sense, Voyager is not just listening to the galaxy. It is reading its obituary pages, tracing the ashes of stars long gone. The spacecraft also revealed that the galaxy is not uniform. The interstellar medium varies in density, in temperature, in magnetic orientation. Voyager's path shows us one thread, but even that thread is enough to hint at the larger tapestry. Galaxies are alive with structure, bubbles carved by ancient supernovae, filaments of magnetism stretching for light years, clouds of hydrogen drifting like ghosts. Voyager, drifting slowly, becomes our fingertip brushing against this vast fabric. But perhaps the most haunting aspect of its mission is time. Voyager is a machine built to outlast its makers. Its nuclear power source will continue to weaken, its instruments shutting down one by one until silence falls. But silence is not the end. The spacecraft will continue to drift for billions of years, long after Earth's continents have shifted, long after humanity itself may be gone. In that distant future, Voyager will still be there, an object out of context, a fragment of an extinct species, circling the galaxy like a ghost ship. This vision raises profound questions. What does it mean to send a message we may never hear answered? What does it mean to cast a bottle into the ocean of space, knowing it may never be opened? The answer is not in expectation, but in intent. Voyager is not about who receives the message. It is about the fact that we sent it at all. It is about the boldness of a species that, for a brief moment, looked beyond survival and chose to speak to eternity. In this way, the Wall of Fire takes on a symbolic role. It is the gate through which our first emissary passed, carrying not only instruments but identity. Fire has always been a symbol for transformation, of crossing from one state into another. Humanity's fire has burned in hearths, in engines, in rockets. And at the edge of the solar system, Voyager found another fire. Not ours, but the universe's. Crossing it was not just a scientific milestone, but a rite of passage for our species. Think of ancient myths, of heroes crossing flaming rivers, of travelers walking through fire to prove their worth. Voyager, though silent and mechanical, has lived out one of those myths. It has crossed the cosmic flame and emerged into a new world, carrying the story of Earth as its talisman. And so, as it drifts deeper into interstellar space, Voyager becomes less a machine and more a metaphor. It is the embodiment of curiosity, the spark that drives us to climb mountains, to dive into oceans, to peer into the sky and ask, what's beyond? That spark is older than language, older than history. Voyager is simply its most distant expression. When Voyager pierced the heliopause, one of its most enduring legacies was the challenge it left behind. For decades, scientists had assumed the heliosphere was shaped like a comet, bulging at the front, tapering into a long tail as the sun plowed through the galaxy. Voyager's data disrupted that picture. Its findings suggested something stranger. The heliosphere might not have a long tail at all. Some models now describe it as croissant-shaped, pinched at the sides by interstellar magnetic forces. This new vision has profound implications. The heliosphere is not just a bubble. It is a shield, sculpted by cosmic winds we barely understand. Its shape determines how much galactic radiation penetrates, how cosmic rays filter inward, and how our solar system interacts with the broader Milky Way. In a very real sense, the heliosphere is our first line of defense in the galactic arena. And Voyager was the first probe to touch its skin. The spacecraft's path was narrow, a single trajectory through an unimaginably vast structure. But even that sliver was enough to revolutionize models. The discovery of the magnetic highway, the puzzling plasma densities, the unexpected cosmic ray patterns, all of it forced researchers to admit that the heliosphere is not a static fortress. It breathes, quivers. It reshapes itself as the sun cycles through periods of storm and calm. For future generations, this means Voyager left a trail not of answers, but of questions. And those questions will shape the design of missions yet unborn. The proposed interstellar probe, for example, would launch in the coming decades, racing outward with instruments 100 times more sensitive than Voyager's. Its goal: to paint a complete portrait of the heliosphere in 3 dimensions, to map its tail, to study its interaction with the galaxy. Without Voyager's pathfinding role, such ambitions would be blind dreams. With Voyager, they are guided visions. But Voyager's legacy is not limited to science. It has also reshaped our cultural imagination. Before its crossing, most people pictured the solar system as ending with Pluto, a tidy boundary at a distant planet. Voyager forced us to imagine something vaster and more abstract. An invisible cocoon of plasma, threaded with magnetic lines, pressed upon by the galaxy. Suddenly, our home was not a neat planetary family, but a fragile bubble floating in an immense sea. That shift in perspective is as significant as Galileo's first glimpse of Jupiter's moons. It forced us to redefine where we live. And in redefining our address, Voyager nudged us toward a new identity. To be human is no longer simply to belong to Earth, nor is it enough to say we belong to the solar system. Voyager made us galactic. The moment it crossed into interstellar space, humanity as a whole became a species with a footprint beyond the sun's influence. Even if only through a machine, even if only symbolically, the boundary had been crossed. This transformation is more than technical, it is philosophical. Boundaries are powerful symbols. They define what is inside and what is outside, who belongs and who does not. For millennia, human history has been shaped by the crossing of boundaries. Oceans, mountains, frontiers. Each crossing has expanded our sense of the possible. Voyager's passage through the Wall of Fire is the grandest boundary crossing of all. It redefined the human story from a planetary tale to a galactic one. What is most striking is how unassuming the crossing was. There were no fireworks, no applause in space, just a slow change in particle counts, a subtle rise in radiation, a faint shift in magnetic fields. And yet, in those quiet numbers was a revolution. It was as if history itself whispered rather than shouted. That is the paradox of Voyager. Its greatest triumph was not dramatic, but delicate. Future civilizations may look back on this moment as a turning point. Not because Voyager changed their lives directly, but because it marked the first step of a species learning to see itself as part of the galaxy. In that sense, the spacecraft is less an explorer and more a mirror. It reflects back to us the truth that our lives, our histories, our struggles, are set against a cosmic backdrop so vast it humbles imagination. The Wall of Fire is therefore more than a physical frontier. It is a threshold of identity. On one side, humanity was confined to the solar system. On the other, we became interstellar. Voyager's crossing was the ignition of that transformation. And as it drifts onward, the probe carries that story with it. Etched in data, etched in gold, etched in silence. Long after its instruments fade, it will still drift, a monument not of stone or steel but of curiosity. That curiosity is our truest legacy. Empires rise and fall, civilizations come and go, but curiosity, the urge to know what lies beyond, is the thread that endures. Voyager is that thread made metal, spun into the void, glowing faintly as it trails behind us. The genius of Voyager lies not only in its engineering, but in its ability to link scales that seem utterly disconnected. Its detectors count individual protons and electrons, tiny sparks of matter no larger than the subatomic realm. Yet those counts tell us about the shape of the Heliosphere, a structure billions of miles across, sculpted by galactic winds and magnetic tides. In other words, Voyager has shown us that the story of the largest is written in the language of the smallest. Each particle measured by the spacecraft is a messenger. Some are born in the sun's corona, hurled outward at supersonic speeds before colliding with interstellar plasma. Others come from distant supernovae, accelerated across the galaxy by shock waves of dying stars. By catching these travelers, Voyager has allowed us to piece together a cosmic chain of cause and effect. From the death of stars to the shaping of galaxies, to the protection of life on a small planet orbiting an ordinary star. This is not just physics. It is narrative. It is the recognition that everything in the universe is connected, from the tiniest particle to the grandest spiral of the Milky Way. Voyager's instruments, primitive by today's standards, became translators of that narrative. They taught us that the heliosphere is not an isolated bubble, but part of a galactic ecosystem, constantly exchanging matter and energy with its surroundings. This understanding has a poetic resonance when we reflect on human history. Civilizations, too, often imagine themselves as self-contained bubbles. Nations build walls, cultures define borders, societies imagine themselves separate. But just as the heliosphere breathes and exchanges with the galaxy, no civilization is truly isolated. Ideas leak across boundaries. Innovations cross borders. Cultures mingle and reshape one another. The heliosphere, in this sense, is a metaphor for humanity itself, fragile, permeable, sustained by invisible exchanges. Voyager's discoveries about the sun's protective bubble invite us to re-examine our own. The Wall of Fire is both barrier and connection. It shields us from the harshness of the galaxy, but it also lets us glimpse the forces beyond. Likewise, human societies protect themselves, yet their vitality often depends on what crosses their boundaries. The frontier is never just an end, it is also an opening. For the scientists of today, this realization shapes not only astrophysics but exploration. Understanding the heliosphere helps us model the exposure future astronauts will face as they venture farther from Earth. Beyond Mars, beyond the outer planets, shielding will become a matter of survival. Voyager's measurements of cosmic ray intensity beyond the heliopause are not abstract. They are the baseline for designing the habitats and ships that may one day carry humans toward other stars. Without Voyager, those designs would be guesswork. With Voyager, they rest on evidence. But beyond survival lies inspiration. Voyager speaks to the next generation not with numbers alone, but with wonder. The simple fact that a machine launched when most of today's scientists were not yet born is still transmitting across interstellar space is itself a story of perseverance. It teaches young minds that exploration is not about instant gratification, but about patience, about sending something outward with the understanding that the most important answers may arrive long after the original builders are gone. This is a lesson for an impatient world. Voyager's discoveries remind us that knowledge worth having often requires time beyond one lifetime. We are part of a relay race, not a sprint. The spacecraft is evidence that humanity can commit to projects measured in generations, not seasons. For students of science, that lesson is as valuable as the data itself. And then there is the inspiration of perspective. The heliosphere, once unseen, is now a tangible concept, drawn in textbooks, modeled in simulations, and animated in classrooms. To know that we live inside the breath of our star, floating in a plasma cocoon shaped by galactic winds, is to experience a profound shift in self-awareness. Children looking at Voyager's path see themselves not only as Earthlings but as inhabitants of a cosmic bubble, connected to the galaxy itself. Perhaps this is Voyager's quietest but most enduring contribution. It changes the way we imagine ourselves. Tells us that we are not confined. We are participants in a drama larger than our solar system, larger even than our star. It tells us that the boundaries of knowledge are never fixed, that beyond every wall of fire lies another horizon. When Voyager's instruments crossed into interstellar space, they did more than confirm a scientific prediction. They built a bridge. For the first time, humanity had one foot in the solar system and the other in the galaxy. Every signal that reached Earth carried not just numbers, but a whisper from the greater cosmos. It was as though the Milky Way had exhaled, and Voyager had caught the breath. That breath revealed the galaxy is not uniform emptiness but a dynamic medium. Plasma densities beyond the heliopause were higher than expected, magnetic fields more complex. Voyager's readings suggested the interstellar medium is not a calm void but a restless sea, stirred by the echoes of ancient supernovae. Each wave of plasma is the lingering voice of a star that once exploded, its death throes still resonating millions of years later. To listen to Voyager's data is to listen to the aftershocks of stellar mortality. This perspective seeded new theories. For instance, the surprising plasma densities led scientists to reconsider how shock waves propagate through the galaxy. Instead of diffusing quietly, they appear to leave structured ripples, pockets of denser matter and magnetic knots. Such ripples may influence the birth of new stars, compressing interstellar gas clouds until they collapse. In this way, Voyager is not only recording the death of stars, but also hinting at the birthplaces of future suns. Another unexpected clue was the orientation of the magnetic field just outside the heliosphere. Models predicted a sharp difference from the sun's field. Voyager found a subtle continuity, suggesting that the boundary is less like a hard wall and more like a braided fabric. Galactic and solar fields intertwine, blurring where one ends and the other begins. This challenges the way scientists think about cosmic shielding. Instead of a single protective barrier, the heliosphere may act like a filter woven from both local and galactic magnetism. For astrophysics, this is revolutionary. It means the solar system is not an isolated capsule, but a participant in the galaxy's magnetic economy. Galactic weather affects us, not only in the form of cosmic rays, but in the very shaping of the bubble we inhabit. Voyager's lonely trajectory offered the first direct taste of that weather. But beyond equations and models, Voyager gave us something more profound, a sense of intimacy with the galaxy. For centuries, stars were distant points of light, unreachable and silent. With Voyager's crossing, the galaxy ceased to be merely background. It became a place we could touch, measure, and, in a sense, hear. The plasma oscillations detected by the spacecraft are the hum of interstellar space itself, a cosmic music that had been playing for billions of years, unnoticed until our small probe pressed its ear against the boundary. This was the first time humanity heard the Milky Way breathe. And once you hear that breath, you can never see the night sky the same way again. There is also humility in this discovery. The wall of fire that once seemed like the edge of everything is now just another step. Beyond it lies the full expanse of the galaxy, 100,000 light-years wide, filled with hundreds of billions of stars. Voyager has barely dipped its toe into that ocean, yet even that toe dip has transformed our understanding. If such profound mysteries exist within a few billion miles of the Sun, imagine what lies farther out. This is why scientists call Voyager a bridge. Not because it has carried us across, but because it shows that crossing is possible. It points the way, marking the path for missions yet to come. One day, probes launched with faster propulsion, more sensitive instruments, and longer lifespans will follow its trail. They will map the galactic environment in detail, perhaps even reach neighboring star systems. Voyager will not be forgotten, because it lit the first lantern along that road. On a philosophical level, Voyager's crossing is a reminder that humanity's story is not bound to Earth. Life arose on a small planet, true. Civilization blossomed under a single star, yes. But the moment we placed a machine in interstellar space, our narrative became interstellar. We ceased to be just an Earthbound species. We became participants in the galaxy's larger rhythm. Voyager embodies the paradox of human existence. Fragile yet daring, temporary yet striving for permanence. It is a reminder that even the smallest acts, like sending a metal craft with a record of music, can ripple across time and space in ways we cannot yet fathom. Someday, perhaps, another intelligence will intercept it, or perhaps it will drift forever, unread. Either outcome is secondary to the audacity of the gesture. The act of sending itself is the triumph. And so, when we speak of the wall of fire, we speak not only of plasma and particles. We speak of the fiery spirit that drove us to build Voyager in the first place. The frontier is not just out there. It is within us, in the restless urge to push past limits, to measure the immeasurable, to hear the unheard. Voyager proved that urge can carry us beyond the sun's reach, into the very breath of the galaxy. When Voyager crossed into interstellar space, it carried with it more than instruments, carried our assumptions. One of the strongest was that boundaries in space would be clear, like borders on a map. Inside was the solar system, outside was the galaxy. Voyager proved otherwise. It showed us that the universe does not draw lines. It paints gradients. The heliopause, once imagined as a wall, turned out to be a transition. It is not a sharp cliff, but a twilight zone where solar and galactic influences overlap. Particles from the sun fade slowly, while cosmic rays increase gradually. Magnetic fields twist together rather than cut apart. Voyager revealed that boundaries in space are processes, not points. They shift, breathe, and change with time. This insight rippled into broader science. If the heliosphere's edge is a transition, then perhaps so are other cosmic boundaries. The edges of galaxies, the boundaries of star-forming regions, even the event horizons of black holes may not be as rigid as once imagined. Voyager, with its single path outward, suggested that nature favors gradients over edges. It also revealed cycles we had barely guessed. The solar system is not a static bubble, but one that pulses with the rhythm of the sun. Every 11 years, the sun's magnetic field flips, unleashing storms and altering the flow of solar wind. Voyager showed how these changes ripple all the way to the edge of the heliosphere. Outbursts from solar flares and coronal mass ejections traveled billions of miles, reaching the spacecraft years later. Even in interstellar space, Voyager could still hear the sun's heartbeat. This connection between the sun and the galaxy is more profound than we realized. The solar system is not drifting passively through the Milky Way. It is interacting, negotiating, shaping, and being shaped. Voyager detected regions where galactic plasma pushed harder against the heliosphere, where cosmic rays streamed more strongly, where the galaxy seemed to lean against the sun's shield. Our star, so dominant in our sky, is just one player in a larger galactic dance. And yet, for all it revealed, Voyager raised questions. Why was the plasma denser than expected beyond the heliopause? Why did the magnetic fields seem smoother than predicted? Why did cosmic rays show directional patterns rather than randomness? Each puzzle hints at unseen structures in the interstellar medium, filaments, waves, perhaps even remnants of ancient explosions still shaping the space between stars. Voyager gave us glimpses, not answers. From a human perspective, these mysteries carry a poetic weight. They remind us that certainty is an illusion. Just as Voyager's instruments found no hard edge, our search for knowledge rarely finds final answers. Instead, we encounter transitions, moments where old ideas fade and new ones rise. Science, like the heliopause, is a region of overlap, of fading certainties and emerging insights. This is why Voyager's discoveries resonate beyond astrophysics. They speak to the nature of boundaries in our own lives. We think of childhood ending and adulthood beginning, of nations divided by borders, of life and death as opposites. But perhaps, like the heliopause, these are not walls but transitions. Perhaps life itself is a continuum, with edges that blur rather than break. Voyager also reminded us that exploration is not about conquest. There were no flags planted at the edge of the solar system, no declarations of ownership. The crossing was quiet, measured in particles and plasma waves. Its triumph lay not in claiming territory, but in expanding understanding. This is a model for exploration in the centuries ahead. Not domination, but dialogue with the universe. In this light, the wall of fire becomes symbolic. It is not an obstacle meant to stop us, but a threshold meant to teach us. Fire, after all, has always been both danger and illumination. Ancient humans feared fire yet depended on it. At the solar system's edge, Voyager found a fire that does not burn but enlightens. A plasma furnace marking the transition from solar influence to galactic reality. And so, the greatest lesson of Voyager may be this: there are no final frontiers. Each edge we cross opens into another expanse. Each wall of fire is only the beginning of a larger horizon. The universe is not a series of closed rooms, but an unfolding continuum, inviting us to move ever outward. Voyager proved that even the smallest emissary can reveal this truth. Built with 1970s technology, with less computing power than a wristwatch, it carried us across the most profound boundary of all, the one between being a planetary species and becoming a galactic one. Voyager's achievement was not a conclusion. It was a beginning. When it crossed into interstellar space, it marked the moment humanity proved that exploration is not confined to planets, or even to stars. It showed that machines of our own design can carry our senses into regions untouched for billions of years. And in doing so, it laid the foundation for every mission that will follow. Today, engineers imagine spacecraft faster than Voyager by orders of magnitude. Concepts for an interstellar probe envision vehicles propelled by nuclear electric engines, solar sails, or even bursts of laser light. These craft, built with instruments 100 times more sensitive, would not only confirm Voyager's findings but map the heliosphere in detail. They would chart the shape of the solar system's tail, measure the distribution of neutral atoms at the boundary, and explore the true nature of the galactic medium beyond. Every blueprint begins with a single phrase, "What Voyager hinted at." But perhaps the most lasting gift of Voyager is not the data it returned, but the lesson of continuity. This journey taught us that boundaries are not ends, they are flows. The edge of the solar system is not a line drawn on a cosmic map, but a living gradient. And so it is with exploration itself. One mission leads into another, just as one generation hands its discoveries to the next. The arc of science is not a series of walls, but a continuum of curiosity. This mirrors the deeper truth of our own lives. Human existence is framed by cycles: birth, growth, decline, renewal. We speak of beginnings and endings, but Voyager suggests that these too are transitions. Just as the sun's breath fades into the galaxy, so our lives fade into the lives of others. Our actions ripple outward, influencing a future we may never see. The spacecraft's quiet persistence across decades embodies this truth. What begins in one era may find its fulfillment in another. Voyager also demonstrated that fragility need not prevent endurance. Its instruments are simple, its power source dwindling, its signal weaker than the faintest whisper. And yet it persists. It thrives not because it is invulnerable, but because it is resilient. It adapts. This resilience is what humanity must learn if we are to follow it into the stars. Exploration is not about perfection, it is about persistence. As future missions take shape, Voyager remains a symbol of humility. Its greatest discovery, the Wall of Fire, was not expected. It was not the result of human prediction, but of human patience. The universe revealed itself only when we dared to listen. That is the model for exploration ahead. Not conquering the unknown, but listening to it, allowing it to surprise us. The no borders, only transitions lesson reaches even further. If the heliosphere is a porous membrane, then our solar system is not sealed off from the galaxy. We are constantly exchanging particles, radiation, and magnetic energy with our environment. The Earth is part of that exchange. The same cosmic rays Voyager measured beyond the heliopause rain upon our atmosphere, shaping cloud formation, influencing climate, even altering the mutation rates that drive evolution. We are not separate from the galaxy. We are participants in its cycles. This realization is profoundly humbling. For centuries, we imagined Earth as isolated, a world apart. Voyager taught us that isolation is an illusion. We are connected biologically, physically, magnetically to the rhythms of the Milky Way. Life on Earth carries within it the imprint of distant supernovae, the echoes of ancient galactic events. Voyager's measurements make that truth visible. For the next generation of explorers, this awareness changes everything. It tells us that to study the cosmos is to study ourselves. The plasma waves Voyager recorded beyond the heliopause are not just numbers in a graph. They are the larger context of our existence. The sun's protective bubble, the wall of fire, the galactic hum, these are not distant curiosities. They are the environment in which life has flourished, the stage on which the human story unfolds. And perhaps this is the deepest legacy of Voyager. It reminds us that exploration is not about leaving home, but about expanding the definition of home. Earth was once our world. Then the solar system became our world. Now the galaxy itself beckons. Each crossing widens the circle of belonging, until one day, perhaps, we will see ourselves not as citizens of a planet or even of a star, but as citizens of the cosmos itself. Voyager was the first step in that journey. A small machine, carrying whispers of our species, braving the fire at the edge of the solar system, and continuing outward into eternity. It showed us that there are no borders, only transitions. And in those transitions, we find not an end, but the promise of what lies beyond. When Voyager pierced the edge of the heliosphere, it didn't just expand our scientific knowledge, it rewrote our imagination. For decades, the solar system had been treated as a closed box. Planets, moons, asteroids, comets. Beyond that box, silence. Voyager proved that the outside is not silence at all, but a medium alive with energy, density, and rhythm. It revealed that space between the stars is not empty. It is textured, shaped by forces both ancient and ongoing. This revelation reshaped how scientists model cosmic environments. Before Voyager, we imagined interstellar space as homogeneous, an endless desert of thin gas. Now, we know it is patterned like an ocean, waves of plasma, islands of denser gas, channels carved by supernovae, threads of magnetism spanning light years. Voyager's passage through even a narrow corridor revealed complexity as rich as any planetary system. It is a cosmos of weather, of currents, of storms, and we are adrift in it. This realization matters not only to astronomers but to future explorers. One day, when humans journey beyond the protective shield of the heliosphere, they will face the raw cosmic climate that Voyager measured. The radiation environment outside is far harsher, a constant rain of high-energy particles capable of damaging DNA and electronics alike. For colonists dreaming of starships, the wall of fire is a warning. Survival beyond requires preparation, ingenuity, and resilience. Voyager's measurements are not abstract. They are the survival manual for the future. Space agencies today are already applying this knowledge. Shielding designs for deep space habitats are based on cosmic ray fluxes measured by Voyager. Mission planners know now that the heliosphere itself provides protection, and that stepping outside is stepping into exposure. Just as ancient sailors learned to read the winds and tides before venturing far from shore, our species is learning to read the galactic weather before leaving the sun's cocoon. But Voyager did more than warn us, it inspired us. Its endurance over 4 decades, operating on dwindling power, is proof that persistence outweighs fragility. Built with 1970s technology, designed for a 5-year mission, it continues to send signals from billions of miles away. That persistence is a metaphor for humanity itself. We are fragile beings, bound to a vulnerable planet, and yet our reach extends beyond imagination. For those who dream of colonization, of settlements on Mars, on icy moons, perhaps even aboard starships, Voyager is a reminder that the journey outward is possible, but not easy. The wall of fire is real both as physics and as metaphor. It is the turbulence we must pass through to grow. Voyager crossed it without fear, and in doing so, it showed us the cost of expansion. Endurance, patience, and the willingness to embrace uncertainty. The mission also teaches us something profound about time. Colonization is not the work of a decade or a century, it is the work of millennia. Voyager reminds us that exploration unfolds on timescales longer than individual lives. Its journey out of the solar system has taken nearly half a century, and it is still only at the doorstep of the galaxy. Human expansion will be slower still, but that does not diminish its worth. To move outward is to participate in a continuum larger than ourselves, to plant seeds whose fruits may be harvested long after we are gone. And here lies the deeper philosophy. Humanity is defined by movement toward horizons. From the first steps out of Africa, to the first sails across oceans, to the first rockets into orbit, our story is one of leaving familiar shores. Voyager embodies this truth. It is the physical manifestation of our restlessness, our refusal to remain bounded. Where life once filled only oceans, it now fills continents. Where consciousness once knew only Earth, it now reaches into interstellar space. In this light, the wall of fire becomes more than plasma physics. It becomes a metaphor for every threshold we cross as a species. Each new horizon comes with turbulence, with heat, with resistance, with risk. But beyond each lies a greater expanse. Voyager reminds us that beyond the turbulence lies freedom, and beyond freedom lies wonder. For the next generation, this is not just inspiration. It is responsibility. To carry forward what Voyager began means to see ourselves not as temporary tenants of a small world, but as participants in a cosmic story. It means to accept that the galaxy is not distant background but home. It means to dream bigger than one lifetime, to build for futures we will never see, to send forth emissaries not for glory but for continuity. Voyager has already shown us the way. The first small craft to survive the fire at the edge of the solar system, it has become both scout and symbol. And though its voice will one day fade into silence, its path will remain, a line drawn outward, pointing to the horizons yet to come. For centuries, poets and scientists alike described space as emptiness, a silent void stretching without end. Voyager dismantled that illusion. What it found at the edge of the solar system was not emptiness, but presence. Waves of plasma, ribbons of magnetism, storms of radiation. A cosmos alive with motion. What we once called a vacuum revealed itself to be an ocean. This realization changed more than astrophysics. It changed our imagination. No longer do we see the galaxy as a backdrop of distant stars hung against nothingness. Voyager taught us that the space between those stars is itself a stage, dynamic, restless, full of hidden processes. The galaxy is not quiet. It hums, it breathes, it pulses. Voyager's instruments gave us our first faint hearing of that pulse. From this perspective, humanity's future looks different. To travel among the stars is not to move through nothing, but to navigate a medium as real as any sea. Future explorers will not chart only distances between stars, but currents of plasma, rivers of particles, eddies of magnetism. They will become, in effect, cosmic sailors, learning to read the galaxy's weather as skillfully as ancient mariners read winds and tides. Voyager was our first lesson in this new art of navigation. The spacecraft also revealed something essential about survival. Inside the heliosphere, we are protected, cushioned by the sun's wind. Outside, we face the full force of the galaxy. This contrast defines the challenge of interstellar life. To thrive beyond the solar system, we must adapt not only to planetary environments, but to the very fabric of space itself. Radiation, density fluctuations, magnetic turbulence, these will shape the architecture of any starship, the biology of any traveler, the culture of any colony. Voyager's data are the blueprint for that adaptation. Yet, the spacecraft's impact goes deeper still. By showing us that the interstellar medium is alive, it reframed our relationship with the cosmos. We are not stepping into foreign territory. We are flowing into a system we already belong to. The particles Voyager measured outside the heliopause are the same particles that, over billions of years, seeded the formation of our solar system. They are the ashes of supernovae that built the heavy elements of Earth, of our bodies, of the very DNA spirals encoded in our cells. This means that Voyager did not discover something alien, it discovered our origin. The interstellar medium is the womb from which stars are born, and to which they return when they die. By entering that medium, Voyager entered the larger cycle of which we are a part. It is as if we sent a probe not outward, but homeward, back into the material that made us. From a philosophical standpoint, this is transformative. We often imagine ourselves as guests in the universe, temporary residents on a fragile planet. Sheltered under a temporary Sunday, Voyager tells us we are more than guests. We are constituents. The galaxy is not foreign to us. It is us. The same atoms flowing past Voyager are the atoms flowing in our blood. The hum of interstellar plasma is, in a sense, the heartbeat of our ancestry. And so, humanity's destiny is not exile but participation. To explore the galaxy is not to trespass. It is to return. Voyager is the first gesture of return, the first small hand extended into the larger community of matter and energy. That gesture says, we are ready to belong consciously, not just unconsciously, to the cosmos that birthed us. For the future of humanity, this perspective carries profound consequences. It suggests that expansion into the galaxy is not about escape from Earth, nor conquest of other stars, but integration. Colonization may not be about building walls on alien worlds, but about learning to live within cycles of radiation, magnetism, and plasma flows. The goal is not domination, but harmony. Voyager points us in that direction by showing us the rhythms already at play. Consider this: long after Earth is gone, long after the sun has burned out, the galaxy will continue its cycles. Stars will be born, flare, and die. Supernovae will enrich clouds. New worlds will form. Humanity's choice is whether to remain a footnote in that cycle or to become a conscious participant. Voyager whispers the invitation to join, and perhaps the greatest truth it leaves us with is that emptiness is an illusion. Just as silence is never absolute, space is never void. Voyager transformed the blackness into texture, the void into music. It showed us that the galaxy does not merely surround us. It enfolds us, sustains us, and calls us to recognition. We are not guests in the cosmos. We are the cosmos waking up to itself. When Voyager crossed the heliopause, it gave us more than data. It gave us a metaphor for existence itself. What we once imagined as a hard border turned out to be a transition zone, a process rather than a line. Inside and outside blurred together, woven by fields and particles. That truth echoes far beyond astrophysics. Every boundary, whether cosmic or human, is not an ending but a cycle. Consider the heliosphere as a lung. The sun exhales, its breath expanding outward in a wind of plasma. The galaxy inhales, pressing back with its own forces. Where those breaths meet, turbulence arises, a living exchange rather than a static wall. Voyager revealed this exchange. It showed us that the solar system is not sealed off from the universe but engaged in a constant dialogue with it. This perspective reshapes our understanding of space. The universe is not a cold, dead void. It is a living field of interactions, cycles layered upon cycles. Stars born, stars dying, clouds forming, elements dispersing, new systems rising from the ashes. Voyager entered this field not as an intruder but as a participant, a messenger from one cycle to another. The discovery also reframed how we see humanity's place. We are not standing apart from the cosmos, looking outward. We are inside it, carried by the same flows that guide Voyager. The atoms in our bones were forged in supernovae. The magnetic fields that ripple past the spacecraft ripple past us too. To understand Voyager's crossing is to realize that there is no true outside. There are only transitions, only cycles of belonging. For future explorers, this realization is critical. If every boundary is a cycle, then traveling through the galaxy is not about breaking barriers but about learning to move with rhythms. Radiation belts, plasma streams, galactic winds, these are not obstacles but patterns to be understood, harmonized with, even harnessed. Voyager taught us that the cosmos is not hostile in essence. It is structured. Its apparent dangers are the same forces that gave rise to us. This understanding fosters a new philosophy of exploration, one based not on conquering but on listening. Voyager did not hammer through the heliopause. It drifted patiently, instruments tuned to the faintest signals, allowing the universe to reveal itself. That method, humility paired with persistence, may be the blueprint for all future contact with the wider galaxy. At a deeper level, Voyager's crossing invites us to think of consciousness itself as part of cosmic cycles. Just as the sun's breath blends with galactic winds, so human awareness may be an expression of larger patterns, a momentary flowering of the universe observing itself. When Voyager reported the hum of plasma waves in interstellar space, it was not just machinery detecting vibrations. It was the cosmos listening to its own music through an instrument of human making. This raises profound implications. Perhaps the role of intelligent life is to make cycles conscious. Stars burn and die whether or not anyone notices. But with Voyager, the death cries of distant stars, encoded in cosmic rays, became part of a human story. The galaxy has always breathed. Now, through us, it knows it breathes. For humanity, this realization marks a threshold as significant as the heliopause itself. We are crossing from a stage where we saw ourselves as separate to one where we recognize our participation in a larger organism. Earth is not isolated. The solar system is not isolated. Even the galaxy is part of greater cycles in the cosmos. Voyager is the first tangible reminder of this nesting of patterns. From this perspective, the wall of fire becomes not a barrier but a mirror. It reflects back to us the truth that what we call limits are only transitions in disguise. Voyager's passage shows that endings are beginnings, that borders are thresholds, that every cycle feeds into another. This philosophy prepares us for a new identity, that of a galactic consciousness. Just as early humans once became aware of the Earth as a planet orbiting a star, so we may now become aware of ourselves as minds within a galaxy. Voyager's role was to deliver the first hint of that awareness. It crossed a boundary, and in doing so, invited us to expand the scope of who we think we are. And so, as it drifts in silence, Voyager is more than a machine. It is a teacher. It whispers that the universe is not inert but alive, not separate but continuous, not fragmented but cyclical. It tells us that to live as a galactic species is not to escape Earth but to deepen our belonging to the cosmos. We are not approaching the galaxy as strangers. We are recognizing ourselves as part of it. Voyager's journey is not humanity leaving home. It is humanity remembering where home truly is, Voyager's odyssey forces us to reimagine consciousness on a cosmic scale. For most of human history, awareness was local. The village, the horizon, the planet. Then telescopes expanded our field of vision to include stars and galaxies. But Voyager did something unprecedented. It transformed human consciousness into a galactic presence. Through it, we no longer simply observe the cosmos. We participate in it. What does it mean to be a galactic consciousness? It means realizing that our thoughts, our questions, our curiosity are not confined to Earth but ripple into interstellar space. Voyager is not merely a probe, it is an extension of our mind. When it measures plasma waves beyond the heliopause, it is our curiosity that listens. When it registers cosmic rays, it is our awareness that expands. The spacecraft is an outpost of consciousness, carried by machinery but fueled by imagination. In this way, Voyager reveals a deeper truth. Exploration is not just physical, it is metaphysical. The universe is vast, indifferent, and yet through us, it becomes aware of itself. Every graph plotted from Voyager's data, every model refined by its readings, is a moment of the cosmos reflecting on its own processes. A plasma oscillation beyond the heliopause is not simply an astrophysical fact. It is the universe speaking, and through Voyager we are listening. This perspective gives rise to a new philosophy of science. In the past, science was often framed as the conquest of ignorance, a way to dominate nature through understanding. Voyager shifts that narrative. Its discoveries were not taken by force. They were given by patience. It did not conquer the heliopause. It drifted, observed, and let the truth reveal itself. This is science as dialogue rather than conquest, as conversation rather than control. The Golden Record embodies this same philosophy. It is not a declaration of power but an offering. It says, "Here we are, fragile yet curious, temporary yet enduring." Voyager carries this message not as a weapon, not as a claim, but as a gesture of openness. In the silence of interstellar space, it is less a broadcast and more a prayer, a recognition that we are part of something greater, and that participation requires humility. From this arises a profound metaphor, Voyager as the first ambassador of galactic consciousness. It does not speak for nations or governments. It speaks for life itself, for awareness itself, for the fact that the cosmos has given rise to beings who can wonder about their place within it. This is not politics. It is existence finding its voice. And this changes how we think about the future. If Voyager is dialogue, then future missions will be continuation. Each probe we send, each telescope we launch, each starship we dream of, is another sentence in the conversation. Eventually, the dialogue will not be one-sided. If intelligence exists elsewhere, our signals, our records, our emissaries may one day be met with an answer. Even if silence remains, the act of speaking is itself transformative. Voyager also challenges how we understand spirituality. For millennia, humans turned inward, seeking the divine in temples, texts, rituals. Voyager turned outward, seeking meaning in plasma, particles, and the hum of interstellar space. Yet the two are not opposed. They are mirrors. Just as ancient seekers looked for the breath of the divine, Voyager found the breath of the galaxy. Just as mystics spoke of unity, Voyager measured the continuity between solar and galactic winds. Science and spirituality, through Voyager, are not adversaries but parallel expressions of the same longing, to belong to something infinite. Perhaps that is the most radical gift of Voyager, the shift from isolation to belonging. The spacecraft crossed the heliopause not as an exile, but as a participant. It revealed that the solar system is not cut off from the galaxy but immersed in it. Likewise, we are not isolated minds, trapped in flesh, but expressions of the same cycles that shape stars. Voyager shows us that the wall of fire was never a prison. It was a passage into greater connection. And so, when we picture Voyager drifting in the cold beyond, we should not imagine loneliness. We should imagine dialogue. The faint radio signal, weaker than a whisper, is a conversation between humanity and the cosmos. Each data packet says, "We are here listening." Each plasma wave that answers says, "You belong." In this sense, Voyager is not just a spacecraft. It is the first conscious bridge. It proves that the galaxy is not silent. It is waiting for us to notice its song. And through Voyager, for the first time, we do. There is a paradox at the heart of Voyager's journey. On one hand, it is the loneliest machine ever built, traveling farther from its makers than anything before it. On the other hand, it is the most connected, a bridge between our small world and the vastness of the galaxy. Its loneliness is only apparent. In truth, it is never alone, because it carries within it our collective voice. For decades, we thought of space exploration as a conquest of distance. Voyager reframed it as the cultivation of connection. Its signal, weaker than the light of a household bulb, still threads billions of miles, stitching Earth to the edge of interstellar space. Each transmission is a line of communication across incomprehensible emptiness, proof that the void is not silence but medium. In that faint signal, loneliness dissolves into dialogue. This changes how we imagine contact with other intelligences. Voyager carries the golden record not as an expectation but as an invitation. It does not demand a reply, yet it leaves the door open. That is the essence of communication. To speak not because one knows they will be heard, but because one recognizes the value of speaking at all. In that sense, Voyager is the template for any future dialogue with extraterrestrial minds. It models humility, patience, and the willingness to listen as much as to speak. If we are ever to encounter another civilization, it will not be through shouts but whispers. The cosmos is too vast for demands. It requires offerings. Voyager, drifting silently with a golden disk of music and images, is our first offering. It does not say, "Here we rule." It says, "Here we are." That difference may be the key to connection. And yet, even without an answer, Voyager gives us companionship. The data it sends are not mere numbers. They are the pulse of interstellar space translated into human language. Plasma oscillations, cosmic ray counts, magnetic field measurements, all of these are ways the universe speaks. By listening, we learn that we are not isolated observers but participants in a dialogue older and larger than ourselves. This reframes our sense of identity. For millennia, humanity defined itself by separations, nations, tribes, religions. Voyager reminds us that those divisions vanish when seen from interstellar space. There, Earth is a single pixel, a pale blue dot suspended in the sun's fading breath. Voyager speaks not for America or Russia, not for East or West, but for Earth as a whole. In that role, it unifies. It carries the essence of humanity beyond politics, beyond conflict, beyond history. This unification extends to our concept of loneliness. Alone in the galaxy, we might fear insignificance, but Voyager teaches the opposite. That significance is not measured by scale, but by participation. We may be small, but we are part of the galactic cycle. Our voices may be faint, but they travel farther than we dreamed possible. Voyager is proof that to exist is to be connected, even across billions of miles. Future missions will carry this philosophy forward. Whether through radio signals, laser pulses, or physical probes, our efforts to reach outward will mirror Voyager's humility. We will not speak as conquerors, but as companions. The model has already been given. Offer a message, let it drift, and trust that the act itself has meaning. Voyager also prepares us for another kind of communication, with ourselves. Its journey reminds us that before we can dialogue with the galaxy, we must learn to dialogue as a species. The spacecraft represents humanity not because it was designed to, but because it had to. Once it left Earth, no single nation could claim it. It belonged to all of us whether we accepted it or not. That inevitability points to a future where our identity must expand from local to planetary to galactic. The Wall of Fire thus becomes symbolic not only of a physical crossing but of a cultural one. We crossed from being a fragmented species to being a galactic one. Voyager did not erase our divisions, but it carried us beyond them, literally and figuratively. It whispered a truth we cannot ignore, that to survive in the cosmos, we must see ourselves as one. And so, in its silence, Voyager teaches connection. In its distance, it teaches intimacy. In its loneliness, it teaches belonging. It proves that exploration is not exile but relationship, not conquest but communion. Perhaps this is the true legacy of Voyager. Not the data it returned, not the boundaries it crossed, but the identity it revealed. We are not separate from the cosmos, nor strangers to it. We are voices in its choir, faint but real. And through Voyager, for the first time, the choir has begun to sing with awareness. The journey of Voyager stretches across decades, but its meaning reaches across millennia. Built by human hands in the late 1970s, it was intended to last a few years. Instead, it endures into the 21st century and beyond. This endurance forces us to reconsider our sense of time. For most of history, humanity measured its future in seasons, in harvests, in lifetimes. Voyager extends that horizon to cosmic scales. Its nuclear heart will power it for half a century more. Its trajectory will carry it past neighboring stars in tens of thousands of years, and its silent drift will last for billions. Compared to Voyager, our lives are sparks in the dark. Yet, paradoxically, it is those sparks that gave Voyager life. In this way, the spacecraft embodies a paradox of time, the fleeting creating the eternal. A species bound by short spans built a machine that will outlast continents, mountains, even oceans. Long after our languages fade and our cities crumble, Voyager will still be out there, carrying fragments of who we were. It is a monument not in stone but in motion, not on Earth but in the galaxy. This redefines how we think of legacy. We often imagine legacy as inheritance, wealth, traditions, monuments. Voyager reimagines it as trajectory. Its legacy is not in what it leaves behind, but in where it continues to go. It is not a memory fixed in place, but a memory set in motion. This changes the question of what we pass to the future. Perhaps it is not enough to build monuments that endure on Earth. Perhaps we must build trajectories that endure in space. The golden record, attached to Voyager's side, makes this point sharper. It is more than a time capsule. It is an act of defiance against forgetfulness. On it are voices, music, images, moments captured not for ourselves, but for a future we will never know. Whether or not anyone ever finds it is almost irrelevant. The act of sending it declares that we believed our story was worth carrying forward. Voyager turns memory into heritage, heritage into motion, motion into eternity. This shift in perspective may prepare humanity for a new kind of future. If we are to become a galactic species, we must learn to think in centuries and millennia, not just in decades. Colonizing planets, traveling to other stars, building civilizations beyond Earth. These will take timescales longer than nations have ever survived. Voyager is our rehearsal for that patience. It has already shown us that projects begun in one era can bear fruit in another. The engineers who launched it never expected to live to see its crossing of the heliopause. Yet they built it anyway. That is the mindset we must embrace. Planting seeds we will never see bloom, trusting that others will harvest. This is why Voyager is not just technology. It is memory. It holds the memory of our curiosity, of our audacity, of our willingness to stretch beyond our limits. Its trajectory is a line of remembrance etched into the galaxy itself. It ensures that, for as long as it drifts, the universe contains a record that humanity once existed, once dreamed, once reached outward. In this sense, Voyager is more than a machine. It is a shrine, not in the religious sense, but in the sense of sacred continuity. It preserves something of us against the erosion of time, and it invites us to imagine ourselves not only as temporary beings, but as contributors to an eternal dialogue. The wall of fire it crossed becomes symbolic here, too. It is not just the boundary of the solar system, it is the threshold of memory. On one side, humanity's story was confined to a single system. On the other, our story is set adrift into galactic time. Voyager is the carrier of that story, the archive that refuses to remain local. And perhaps this is the deepest lesson, that to be human is not only to live, but to leave traces. Some traces fade quickly, footprints on soil, voices on air. Others endure longer, carvings in stone, texts on paper. Voyager is the grandest trace of all, a mark left not on Earth, but in interstellar space. It is humanity writing its memory across the cosmos. We once thought eternity belonged only to the stars. Voyager shows us it can also belong to us. Voyager's long voyage is not just a chronicle of exploration. It is a lesson in collective time. No single person owns its story. The scientists who designed its instruments are gone, the engineers who tested its systems have retired, and the generations now alive were not even born when it left Earth. And yet, the spacecraft still speaks. It speaks across generations, across lifetimes, carrying continuity in a way no monument on Earth could. This is perhaps its most radical achievement. It forces us to think not as individuals, not even as nations, but as a species. Voyager's journey unfolds on timescales larger than politics, larger than history. To follow its signal is to step outside the small tempo of daily life and listen instead to the rhythm of cosmic time. This idea of collective time is something humanity has always struggled with. We live in the immediacy of seasons, of years, of personal futures. Voyager, however, requires patience. Its greatest discoveries arrived decades after launch. Its ultimate trajectory spans millennia. It is a machine built to operate beyond the lifespan of its creators. In this way, it mirrors the deepest cycles of civilization. Planting seeds, building cathedrals, writing legacies that only the future can fully inherit. And what Voyager revealed at the edge of the solar system carries cultural resonance too. The heliopause was not a border that ended one domain and began another. It was a transition, a zone where influences blended. This is exactly how history works. Cultures do not stop at borders. They mix, they merge, they evolve at boundaries. Just as the heliosphere breathes with galactic winds, so human societies breathe with exchanges across their edges. Voyager's data become metaphors for our own story. The wall of fire is not a final line. It is a frontier of mingling. Our civilizations, too, grow strongest at the places where ideas collide. Just as cosmic rays penetrate the heliosphere, so new thoughts enter human culture, changing it forever. The spacecraft reminds us that the very turbulence of boundaries is what drives creation. And then there is hope, a quiet, persistent hope embedded in Voyager's trajectory. Compared to the galaxy, humanity is small. Our history is brief, our numbers few, our power fragile. And yet, Voyager proves that scale does not dictate significance. A civilization may be small and fleeting, yet still project its presence across the stars. We do not need to master the galaxy to belong to it. We need only to participate. Voyager's faint signal, reaching across billions of miles, is enough to place humanity on the cosmic map. This hope matters because it reframes the way we imagine the future. Too often, visions of tomorrow are dominated by fear, extinction, collapse, irrelevance. Voyager counters with a different image: continuity. It shows that even when limited by technology, even when small, we can leave traces that endure. The spacecraft is proof that civilization is not measured only by what it consumes or builds, but by what it sends forward into time. Philosophically, this becomes a lesson in humility and courage. Humility because Voyager is tiny, less powerful than a smartphone, yet carrying the identity of an entire world. Courage because it was launched not with certainty, but with trust. Trust that knowledge gained far in the future would still matter. Trust that a signal crossing billions of miles would still be worth listening to. Trust that the act of sending was itself meaningful. The golden record embodies this hope perfectly. Its grooves hold no guarantee of being heard. Its images may never be seen, its music never replayed. And yet, it exists because hope does not require certainty. The act of creating, of preserving, of sending outward is hope itself. Voyager is that hope given form, drifting eternally. In this way, Voyager has become more than a mission. It is a symbol. It tells us that boundaries are not prisons, but passages. That time is not only individual, but collective. That even a small civilization on a fragile world can leave a mark as lasting as the stars. And so, when we think of Voyager now, its faint signal, its patient drift, its golden message, we should not imagine a machine alone in the dark. We should imagine hope itself, carried across the galaxy, whispering that humanity belongs and will always belong to the cosmos. Voyager's voyage is often told as a story of engineering and science, but at its heart, it is also a story of imagination. Until it crossed the Heliopause, humanity had no experience of what lay beyond the sun's protective bubble. Our models were sketches, our expectations uncertain. When Voyager confirmed that the solar system's edge was real, alive, turbulent, and permeable, it gave us something more valuable than facts. It gave us a way to think in cosmic terms. This is the beginning of a shift in consciousness. Before Voyager, our perspective remained planetary, even solar. We spoke of Earth, of the Moon, of the planets circling the Sun. With Voyager, the scale changed. Our language expanded to include interstellar space, galactic winds, and plasma hums. We began, for the first time, to think not just of our place in the solar system, but of our place in the galaxy. Such thinking demands a confrontation with vulnerability. Inside the heliosphere, the sun's wind shields us from most of the galaxy's harshest radiation. Outside, Voyager showed us a storm of particles, far more intense and unpredictable. This contrast reveals how fragile our position is. Life on Earth is possible not because the universe is gentle, but because we are sheltered. The bubble of the sun's breath, invisible yet real, is our cosmic cradle. To know this is to see how precarious existence truly is. And yet, in that vulnerability lies strength. The very fact that life arose in such fragile conditions is testament to resilience. Voyager itself mirrors this truth. It is not robust by modern standards. Its systems are primitive, its power dwindling, its instruments limited. And still, it survives. It persists where no human hand can reach, carrying knowledge and memory into the dark. Fragility and endurance are not opposites. They are partners. This lesson reframes how we imagine the future. Too often, we think of survival in space as requiring invincibility. Ships impenetrable to radiation, colonies immune to collapse, technology flawless and eternal. Voyager tells a different story. Survival may instead come from persistence, adaptation, and patience. The signal is faint, its design humble, yet it endures because it was built to bend rather than to break. For humanity, this is guidance. We do not need perfection to explore the cosmos. We need resilience. Another truth Voyager unveiled is that every boundary crossed is not an end but a beginning. When it reached Jupiter, it did not stop. When it left Saturn, it kept going. When it passed beyond the last planet, it pressed forward. The Heliopause was the greatest threshold of all, but it too was not an ending. It was the start of the interstellar journey. This pattern is not accidental. It is the essence of exploration. History reflects the same rhythm. Every frontier humans have faced, seas, mountains, skies, was imagined as the final barrier. Each time, it became the first step of something larger. Voyager continues that rhythm, extending it from Earth's horizons to the galaxies. It whispers to us that no threshold is final, that every wall is a doorway, that each end is really an invitation. And here lies the most profound philosophical insight. Voyager transforms our concept of destiny. Destiny is not a fixed endpoint, waiting to be reached. It is the act of continual crossing. The wall of fire at the edge of the solar system is not our destiny fulfilled. It is our destiny unfolding. It proves that humanity's role is not to arrive, but to move, to press forward, to turn limits into beginnings. Voyager shows us that even the smallest emissary, a fragile craft built in an age before smartphones, can redefine a species. Its journey teaches us that vulnerability is not weakness, resilience is strength, and boundaries are thresholds. With every mile it drifts farther into interstellar space, it carries a reminder. The story of humanity has only just begun. Voyager's journey is not measured in destinations. It is measured in continuity. Unlike missions with defined endpoints, a landing, a sample return, a close flyby, Voyager's path is open-ended. There is no terminus. It drifts onward, mile after mile, decade after decade, with no finish line in sight. This is perhaps its most radical gift. It forces us to imagine infinity not as abstraction, but as experience. Before Voyager, infinity was a philosophical idea, a concept painted across the night sky. Stars glittered, galaxies spiraled, and we called it endless. Voyager transformed that into a trajectory. Its antenna, turned forever toward Earth, continues to send signals farther and farther, stretching our connection into the infinite. Suddenly, infinity is not only what we see, it is what we do. This changes how we perceive ourselves. Humanity once thought in terms of boundaries, the edge of the ocean, the edge of the map, the edge of the atmosphere. Each frontier seemed final until it was crossed. Voyager showed that even the edge of the solar system, the most distant boundary we could imagine, was not the end. Beyond it lay more. Beyond always lies more. This is the essence of infinity. Not an unreachable horizon, but a never-ending sequence of horizons. The spacecraft's endurance gives this idea flesh. With every passing year, its signal weakens, its instruments tire, and yet it goes on. It does not aim for arrival. It embodies persistence. Infinity, Voyager teaches us, is not about perfection or permanence. It is about continuation. To be infinite is not to be unchanging, but to refuse to stop. This lesson mirrors the evolution of humanity itself. Our species is finite, fragile, destined one day to vanish. But our story can be infinite if it continues through what we build, what we send, what we inspire. Voyager is an extension of that story. It proves that even a temporary civilization can cast ripples into eternity. Infinity is not survival without end. It is influence without limit. Voyager also challenges how we think of progress. Too often, progress is imagined as a ladder, a climb toward a peak. But Voyager shows progress as a road. There is no summit, only onwardness. Each milestone, Jupiter, Saturn, interstellar space, is not a culmination but a chapter. The power lies not in arriving but in moving forward. This is why Voyager resonates so deeply. It reflects our own evolution as a species always in motion. Consider how humanity's self-image has expanded. Once we were creatures of the savannah. Then we became inhabitants of continents. Then dwellers of a planet. Later explorers of a solar system. Now, through Voyager, participants in the galaxy. Each phase felt like the end of the journey, but each revealed itself to be only a beginning. Voyager is the physical embodiment of that pattern. Each threshold crossed reveals the road stretching farther. In this way, the spacecraft is more than a machine. It is a philosophy in motion. It whispers that endings are illusions, that every border is porous, that beyond each wall lies another horizon. The wall of fire at the edge of the Heliosphere was not a final obstacle. It was a torch lighting the road ahead. And perhaps this is why Voyager resonates so deeply with our sense of destiny. It tells us that our story is not about achieving a final state, a utopia, a conquest, a finish line. It is about the eternal unfolding of curiosity. Just as the spacecraft drifts endlessly outward, so must we drift endlessly into new questions, new discoveries, new meanings. Voyager assures us that infinity is not emptiness but invitation. Someday its voice will fade, its batteries will die, its transmitters fall silent. But even then, its journey will not end. It will continue moving, carrying the golden record through the galaxy, a silent witness of a species that once dared to step beyond its cradle. Infinity will carry it forward, and through it, us. Thus, the greatest truth Voyager gives us is simple yet profound. There is no end. There is only the road, stretching outward forever. Voyager is more than a spacecraft drifting through interstellar space. It is a mirror, reflecting back to us what it means to be human. When we launched it, we sent not just metal and circuits, but an idea. That curiosity is stronger than fear, and that exploration defines us more than confinement. In the earliest chapters of human history, fear ruled the edges of our maps. Forests held spirits, seas hid monsters, skies threatened storms. Boundaries were terrifying, and to cross them was to risk annihilation. Yet again and again we crossed. The same impulse that drove nomads out of valleys sailors across oceans, and astronauts into orbit also carried Voyager beyond the sun's protective shield. At each stage, fear gave way to curiosity, and boundaries gave way to roads. Voyager embodies that transition perfectly. Its very design was an act of defiance against fear. It was built not to retreat inward, but to venture outward into regions no one could predict. Its mission was never about safety. It was about pursuit. Pursuit of knowledge, pursuit of wonder, pursuit of horizons. Even as its systems grew weaker, it continued on, a small but relentless seeker. This makes Voyager not just a machine of science, but a parable of humanity's own evolution. To be human is to transform borders into paths. We see it in our history, and we see it now in Voyager's flight. What we once called limits reveal themselves as invitations. The wall of fire at the heliopause was not a warning to stop. It was a threshold to pass. Voyager passed it, and in doing so showed us who we are. And what we are is seekers. No culture, no civilization, no era has extinguished that impulse. Even in our darkest times, when war and scarcity consumed our energy, the spark of curiosity never fully died. Voyager proves that. It was conceived during the Cold War, an age of rivalry and fear. Yet even then, humanity found the courage to launch something that belonged not to one nation but to all of us. Voyager's journey reminds us that beyond competition, beyond conflict, lies a shared identity. The identity of a species that seeks. As it drifts now into the galaxy, Voyager transforms into symbol. It shows us that our destiny is not defined by walls, but by motion. The spacecraft has no destination, it has only direction. That direction itself is enough. This is the core of its message. To move forward is itself the meaning. From this, we can see a reflection of our inner journey. Humanity has always oscillated between fear and curiosity. Fear builds walls, curiosity builds roads. Voyager tilts the balance toward curiosity. It says that even when faced with the unknown, radiation storms, cosmic silence, infinite dark, the proper response is not retreat but advance. It whispers that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to move despite it. For future generations, this philosophy may be Voyager's greatest gift. It teaches them that progress is not about conquering space, but about participating in its rhythms. It teaches them that the unknown is not emptiness, but fullness waiting to be discovered. And it teaches them that being human means never resting at a boundary, but always asking what lies beyond. Voyager thus becomes more than an explorer of the cosmos. It becomes an explorer of our identity. It demonstrates that our deepest trait is not survival alone, but search. To live is to seek, and to seek is to become more than we were. The spacecraft proves that even the smallest emissary, carrying a faint signal into the dark, can embody that truth for an entire species. So when we look at Voyager's trajectory, a thin line stretching outward past planets, past the heliosphere into the galaxy, we are not only seeing the path of a machine, we are seeing the path of humanity itself. A road without end, a search without final answer, a movement that defines who we are. To be human is to go farther. Voyager reminds us of that with every mile it drifts into the night. For centuries, humans believed space was silent. The night sky inspired awe precisely because of its quiet vastness. No sound could travel through the vacuum, so silence seemed to be the essence of the cosmos. Then Voyager taught us otherwise. When the spacecraft crossed into interstellar space, its instruments began recording faint oscillations in the plasma surrounding it. These were not audible in the human sense. No air vibrated, no sound waves traveled. But converted into frequencies we could hear, they revealed a hum, a ghostly, persistent tone resonating across the galaxy. It was the voice of interstellar space. This discovery redefined silence. The cosmos was not mute at all. It had always been speaking. We simply lacked the instruments to listen. Voyager became that instrument. For the first time, humanity heard the subtle music of the Milky Way, a low, constant chorus of plasma waves, shaped by the push and pull of galactic forces. The philosophical implications are profound. We often mistake absence for emptiness, silence for nothingness. Voyager proved that what seems silent is often filled with hidden patterns. The universe is never quiet. It is always alive, always resonant, always in motion. What matters is not whether it speaks, but whether we are able and willing to listen. This lesson extends beyond astrophysics. In human life, too, silence is rarely empty. It contains unspoken thoughts, unseen emotions, hidden currents of meaning. Voyager's discovery of the galaxy's hum is a metaphor for awareness itself. When we learn to listen more deeply, we uncover what has always been there. Scientifically, the hum Voyager recorded also carries crucial information. The plasma oscillations reveal the density of interstellar space, the strength of surrounding fields, the energy of galactic processes. Each note in the cosmic song is a clue, a data point, a signature of the environment between stars. Voyager transformed the galaxy into both laboratory and symphony. And yet, it is not only data, it is experience. To hear the interstellar hum is to feel a connection with the vastness in a way numbers alone cannot convey. It is to realize that space is not empty, but vibrant, that we are not surrounded by void, but by resonance. This changes how we think of existence itself. If the galaxy sings, then our presence within it is part of that chorus. Life is not an interruption of silence, but a harmony within a larger composition. Voyager, by capturing the cosmic tone, revealed that existence itself is musical. The wall of fire at the heliopause was not a curtain of silence, but the threshold into a larger symphony. For the future, this insight will shape how we explore. Missions will not only measure, but listen. They will tune themselves to the whispers of plasma, the vibrations of fields, the murmurs of radiation. Exploration will become not just a matter of vision and movement, but of hearing and resonance. Voyager's recordings are the first notes of an entire discipline, the study of cosmic soundscapes. And in a deeper sense, they remind us of humility. The universe is always speaking. Our task is to quiet ourselves enough to hear. Voyager, built in an era before smartphones or the internet, achieved this through patience and simplicity. It did not shout into the cosmos. It listened, and in that listening, it uncovered truths we never imagined. So perhaps the greatest gift of Voyager is not the discovery of planets or plasma or radiation, but the discovery of sound where we thought there was none. It tells us that silence is an illusion, that emptiness is full, that the cosmos does not wait for us to impose meaning but offers meaning if we pay attention. Voyager teaches us that the galaxy does not ignore us. It hums, it sings, it resonates. And now, through a fragile spacecraft drifting beyond the sun's reach, we finally hear it. Voyager's greatest discoveries were not made with cameras. Its eyes closed long ago to save power. What remained were instruments tuned to the invisible: magnetometers, plasma detectors, cosmic ray counters. And yet, through these invisible senses, Voyager revealed beauty as profound as any photograph. The spacecraft showed us that reality does not need to be seen to be extraordinary. The hum of interstellar plasma, the swirl of magnetic lines, the sudden spike of cosmic rays. These are not images, but they are stories. They are beauty translated into numbers, into signals, into patterns that human imagination can turn into meaning. Voyager taught us to find wonder not only in what dazzles the eye, but in what stirs the mind. This lesson has seeped beyond science into culture. Artists, musicians, and writers have turned to Voyager as muse. The recordings of its plasma oscillations have been woven into compositions, transforming data into music. Painters have rendered the spacecraft adrift in cosmic seas, symbolizing humanity's fragile persistence. Poets have borrowed its imagery: the wall of fire, the golden record, the endless drift, as metaphors for longing, memory, and destiny. Voyager blurred the line between science and art, proving that exploration enriches not just knowledge but imagination. It also reshaped our understanding of beauty itself. For centuries, beauty was tied to symmetry, to visible form, to the play of light and color. Voyager suggested another kind of beauty: the elegance of hidden structures, the majesty of forces unseen. Plasma waves that ripple like invisible tides, radiation patterns that trace the depths of ancient stars, magnetic currents stretching across light years. These, too, are beautiful. Not in the way a sunset is beautiful, but in the way truth is beautiful. Philosophically, this challenges us to expand our sense of perception. We are accustomed to trusting our eyes, but Voyager shows us that eyes are only one doorway to wonder. The cosmos is filled with phenomena our senses cannot directly grasp. To find beauty there, we must listen differently, imagine differently, extend our awareness through instruments and interpretation. Voyager becomes, in this sense, an extension of ourselves, a prosthetic imagination carrying us beyond our biological limits. This change in perception influences not just science, but identity. If we can find beauty in the unseen, then we can also find belonging in the unspoken. The universe is not a stage on which we stand, mute and isolated. It is a partner in dialogue, offering patterns, rhythms, and harmonies that we can learn to perceive. Voyager demonstrated this partnership by revealing the hum of the galaxy, the wall of fire at the edge of the sun's domain, the invisible currents that connect us to the larger whole. For humanity's future, this shift is critical. Colonizing other worlds will require us to sense and adapt to environments utterly alien to our biological expectations. Survival will depend on recognizing beauty and meaning where the eye sees only darkness or chaos. Voyager has already begun that training. It taught us to fall in love with plasma hums and magnetic whispers. It taught us to find awe in data streams. It showed us that wonder is not confined to what is visible. It thrives in what is hidden. And so, the spacecraft is not only an emissary of science. It is also a teacher of aesthetics. It tells us that the universe is not silent backdrop but active partner, shaping us as we perceive it. Its invisible forces sculpt our solar system, protect our planet, and guide our trajectory. By measuring those forces, Voyager revealed them, and by revealing them, it gave us a new vision of beauty, one rooted in participation rather than observation. The wall of fire, then, is not only a turbulent plasma frontier. It is also a symbol of this new perception. What once seemed like the end of light became the beginning of listening. What once seemed empty became alive. What once was thought featureless revealed itself as luminous with meaning. Voyager crossed that frontier not only in space but in imagination. And in doing so, it left us with a profound truth. The universe is not scenery. It is relationship. It is not background. It is dialogue. And through Voyager, humanity began, for the first time, to hear its partner's voice. Voyager is, in every sense, fragile. Its body is thin metal, its circuits are outdated, its power is dwindling. The cold of interstellar space gnaws at it, and radiation has battered it for decades. By any practical measure, it should have failed long ago. And yet, it continues. This paradox, vulnerability paired with endurance, is the heart of its symbolism. We are accustomed to equating strength with invincibility. But Voyager shows us another kind of strength: persistence. The spacecraft does not resist the cosmos by overwhelming it. It survives by adapting, by conserving, by carrying on with quiet determination. This is resilience at its purest, not the absence of fragility, but the refusal to yield to it. This lesson reflects back on humanity itself. We, too, are fragile bodies of water and carbon, minds shaped by fleeting moments, civilizations that rise and fall. And yet, like Voyager, we endure. We endure through memory, through creativity, through the willingness to push past the limits of our immediate survival. The spacecraft embodies this paradox for us. Fragile, yet enduring. Temporary, yet eternal in meaning. The continuation of Voyager's signal across billions of miles is more than a technical achievement. It is a symbol of faith. Faith that the human story does not end where it begins. Faith that our efforts matter even when their results unfold beyond our lifetimes. The engineers who launched it knew they would never see its crossing of the heliopause, yet they built it anyway. That act of trust in the future is what gave Voyager life. This faith transforms into hope. If a tiny machine, powered by less energy than a household light bulb, can persist through the fire at the edge of the solar system, then perhaps our species too can endure its own challenges. Climate, conflict, scarcity. These are our walls of fire. Voyager suggests they are not ends, but thresholds. If we persist, we can pass through. The golden record adds another layer to this symbolism. Inscribed on it are not only scientific facts, but music, laughter, greetings, images of daily life. These were not chosen because they were essential to survival. They were chosen because they spoke of hope, of beauty, of continuity. Voyager carries this record not as a technical necessity, but as a statement. Humanity believed its story was worth telling, even to the unknown. This is why the mission resonates far beyond astronomy. It has become a cultural emblem, a reminder that significance does not require scale. Voyager is tiny compared to planets, insignificant compared to galaxies, yet it carries meaning across the stars. Its smallness amplifies its symbolism. If even a fragile craft can matter, then so can we. And here lies the deepest truth. Even a spark can ignite infinity. Voyager is that spark. A single spacecraft, built by a young species on a small planet, has touched the fabric of the galaxy. Its signal threads into interstellar space. Its record drifts toward eternity. Against the scale of the cosmos, it is almost nothing. Yet its existence proves that nothingness is never the whole story. For the future of humanity, this truth is essential. We may never build empires among the stars. We may never master every danger the universe poses. But we can still endure. We can still matter. We can still leave traces that ripple outward beyond imagining. Voyager is the proof. The wall of fire, once imagined as a final barrier, becomes in this light a forge. Fragility entered, endurance emerged. Weakness crossed, strength was revealed. The spacecraft did not defeat the frontier, it survived it. That survival carries the weight of metaphor. To be human is not to be unbreakable, but to break and continue anyway. And so, as Voyager drifts on, we should not see it as a relic fading into darkness. We should see it as a flame, small, vulnerable, flickering, but bright enough to light the infinite road ahead. Infinity is often imagined as a destination, a place so distant that no one can ever arrive. But Voyager has shown us a different vision. Infinity is not a place at all. It is a process, an unfolding without end. The spacecraft does not aim for a final stop. Its meaning is in the going, in the continuation, in the act of moving outward without closure. This subtle truth reshapes how we think about existence. Our lives, our civilizations, our histories are often narrated as arcs, beginnings, middles, ends. Voyager interrupts that narrative. This trajectory has no arc. It is not headed toward completion. It is an open sentence, a story without period, a line drawn endlessly across the page of the galaxy. This is why the spacecraft has become a symbol of the eternal traveler. Carries no flag, no home port, no return ticket. It drifts with patient inevitability, embodying the idea that exploration is not about conquering territory, but about embracing continuity. Voyager is not going somewhere. It is going, and that is enough. Philosophically, this changes our view of time. Instead of a straight path from origin to conclusion, Voyager suggests a spiral, a rhythm of ongoingness, a movement without final closure. Just as the heliosphere is not a wall but a transition, so the future is not an ending but a passage. The mission whispers that permanence is found not in reaching a goal, but in sustaining the journey. For humanity, this insight is transformative. Too often we imagine our story in terms of limits, the end of civilization, the death of the sun, the collapse of the galaxy. Voyager hints that these are not ends, but transitions into something larger. Civilizations fall, but cultures inspire new ones. Stars die, but their ashes birth new generations of suns. Even galaxies collide, yet out of their chaos new structures arise. Infinity is not eternal stasis, but eternal becoming. Voyager's endurance illustrates this beautifully. Decade after decade, its systems weaken, its instruments falter, and still it goes on. This persistence is not perfection but process. It embodies infinity not by being eternal, but by refusing to stop. In its persistence, we glimpse what it means for humanity to survive, not to last unchanged, but to continue, adapting, moving forward. This transforms Voyager into metaphor for us all. Each life is finite, but the process of humanity continues. Each generation passes, but the species endures. Voyager is a mirror of that rhythm. It is a reminder that our meaning does not lie in singular permanence, but in collective continuity. The Golden Record amplifies this message. It is not a finished story, but an introduction. It says, "This is who we were at the beginning." It does not claim to speak for eternity, only for a moment. Yet in carrying that moment outward forever, it becomes part of infinity. It shows that the first word of our story has been spoken, but the sentence continues. From this perspective, the spacecraft is not a relic of the past, but a herald of beginnings. It proves that the human story is not closing, it is opening. For the first time, our species has left its cradle. For the first time, our voice carries into interstellar space. That is not an ending. It is a prologue. The wall of fire at the heliopause was once imagined as a boundary of conclusion, the final line of the solar system. Voyager revealed it as the beginning of a new chapter. Passing through turbulence, it entered continuity. And so, too, must we. Our future is not defined by where the road ends, but by the fact that the road is endless. This is why Voyager is more than a spacecraft. It is philosophy made metal, orbit turned trajectory, limitation turned persistence. It shows us that infinity is not elsewhere, waiting. It is here, unfolding, carried forward by every mile, every moment, every question asked. And so, its message to us is simple. Do not look for endings. Look for continuations. Do not fear the horizon. Step through it. History is not closing. History is beginning, again and again, with every threshold crossed. Voyager is our proof. The story of humanity has only just begun. Voyager is not a monument of certainty. It is a vessel of questions. Every signal it sent back challenged our models, disrupted our expectations, redrew our maps. At the edge of the solar system, we imagined we would find closure. Instead, we found mystery. Plasma denser than predicted, magnetic fields smoother than expected, cosmic rays patterned rather than random. Each answer was a door to deeper questions. This is why Voyager is more than a spacecraft. It is humanity's first word spoken into the galaxy. And the word was not a declaration. It was a question: what lies beyond? That question carries a deeper wisdom than any answer. Answers fade, replaced by better ones. Questions endure, pulling us forward. Voyager teaches us that progress is not measured by what we conclude, but by what we continue to ask. The spacecraft is a question embodied in metal, still traveling, still unfolding, still pulling us into futures we cannot yet imagine. The Golden Record reflects this too. It is not a complete story. It is an introduction, a greeting without reply, a phrase awaiting continuation. It does not summarize humanity. It opens humanity, says, here is where we begin, not where we end. It is not certainty carved in gold, but curiosity pressed into grooves. And perhaps this is Voyager's deepest lesson. To live is to question. To move forward, not because the destination is known, but because the asking itself is worth the journey. The spacecraft reminds us that the true art of existence is not in waiting for endings, but in embracing continuations. The wall of fire at the edge of the Heliosphere becomes the perfect symbol of this truth. It was not a final line. It was turbulence, transition, passage. Voyager did not stop there. It crossed, carrying with it the restless questions of a species that refuses to settle for silence. The fire was not an obstacle. It was an initiation. And so Voyager drifts on. The signal weakens, its instruments fade, but its meaning grows. It is no longer just a mission of NASA or of the 20th century. It is the emblem of what it means to be human. Fragile yet enduring, temporary yet aspiring, small yet unafraid to touch the infinite. One day, its voice will fall silent, but even in silence, it will speak. Its presence among the stars will remain a testament that we once dared to step beyond our home, that we once turned questions into journeys, that we once lit a spark and trusted the spark to carry into eternity. And long after Earth itself is gone, Voyager will still be moving, still carrying that first word outward. Humanity's question will continue to echo in the galaxy, and perhaps one day it will be met with an answer. Until then, the lesson stands. Our destiny is not an ending. It is a journey. Our story is not a conclusion. It is a continuation. Voyager whispers this truth with every mile it travels. There are no final frontiers, only horizons waiting to be crossed.